It was nothing more than a silly challenge. Calm down. She burst into laughter right after kissing some other guy at the gathering. I walked out without saying anything. 1 week later, she showed up at my doorstep in tears, pleading for a chance to explain. I looked at her and said, "I challenge you to stay out of my life," then shut the door. Hey everyone, before we continue with the rest of the story, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash that like button if you enjoy content like this. Thanks. I believe at some point, Jessica completely forgot I was an actual human being. To her, I was just the reliable boyfriend. I was the background character in the movie of her existence. The one who covered half the rent, took her dog out when she was recovering from a rough night, and sat through endless complaints about her marketing position without ever cutting her off. I was the backup plan. I was the person who was constantly available, which meant she never had to fear I might disappear. And since she never feared losing me, she gradually stopped treating me with respect. It didn't happen all at once. It was a gradual buildup of little slights. A mocking comment about me in front of her circle of friends. Flirting with the server to get faster service. Ditching our plans because something more exciting popped up. Every time I mentioned it, she'd sigh dramatically and fire back with her go-to line. "You're so insecure, Mark." It's not attractive. That single word, insecure, became the tool she used to silence me whenever I spoke up. If I wasn't comfortable with her dancing on furniture, insecure. If I didn't like her messaging in old flame, insecure. I stuck around because I truly cared for her, and I talked myself into believing this was simply who she was. Full of energy, captivating, the center of attention at every event. Then came the crowded house party at Tyler's. It was one of those sweaty, chaotic evenings where the music rattles the walls and the kitchen overflows with people yelling to be heard over the beat. Jessica was on fire that night. She had chosen a dress she knew would draw eyes, and she'd been downing tequila shots from the moment we arrived. I was propped against the kitchen counter, slowly sipping a beer, keeping an eye on her as she commanded the living room. She was perched on the arm of a sofa, laughing loudly at every word coming from this guy, Ryan. Ryan was the classic type who had his glory days in college and was desperately clinging to that vibe well into his late 20s. Boisterous, cocky, and obviously eyeing my girlfriend. He was fully aware I was there. He simply didn't care. He'd catch my gaze, flash a smirk, then lean in to murmur something in Jessica's ear. I approached, resting my hand lightly on her lower back. "Hey," I said quietly. "I'm going to get some water. Need anything? Maybe ease up on the shots a little." She tensed up right away. She shrugged off my touch as if it burned. "Oh my God, stop it," she snapped, loud enough for the half-dozen people nearby to hear. "I'm enjoying myself. Don't act like my father, Mark." The group chuckled. Ryan laughed hardest. "Yeah, Mark. Give the lady some space." Heat crept up my neck, but I forced it down. "I'm just looking out for you, Jess." "Well, quit looking out," she shot back, turning away from me to face Ryan again. "You're ruining the mood." I should have walked out right then. I should have headed to my car and driven off for good. But I stayed. I retreated to a quiet corner, scrolling on my phone, acting like the public embarrassment didn't sting. About an hour later, things changed. The volume dropped, and someone proposed truth or dare. It's a game that belongs in middle school, but with enough drinks, grown-ups regress. I stayed on a folding chair just outside the circle, observing. Jessica sat cross-legged on the floor, cheeks flushed, thriving on the spotlight. Ryan was positioned directly opposite her. The early rounds were harmless, awkward confessions, dares to finish a drink fast. Then it turned spicy. The air grew heavy with flirtation, and the group fed into it. When Ryan got to dare Jessica, everyone hushed. He leaned in, elbows on knees, wearing a hungry grin. "All right, Jess," Ryan said, twirling his plastic cup. "Truth or dare?" "Dare," she answered without hesitation. She flicked her eyes toward me for a brief moment, defiance flashing, before focusing on him. "I dare you," Ryan continued, voice lowering, "to kiss whoever in this room you find most attractive, excluding your boyfriend." The crowd exploded with cheers and gasps. A decent, considerate partner would have brushed it off with a laugh and said, "Nah, too weird," or chosen a female friend for a quick cheek kiss to lighten the moment. Jessica didn't either. She let out a giddy, nervous laugh. She glanced my way. I met her stare, expression neutral. I was waiting to see if any shred of respect for our relationship remained. "Well," Jessica giggled, "a challenge is a challenge." I'm not backing down. She crawled across the floor on hands and knees, heading straight for Ryan. My breath caught. She's really doing it, I thought. She'll give him a quick lip peck and play it off as harmless. It wasn't quick. She seized the back of his neck, drew him close, and pressed her mouth hard against his. It wasn't humorous. It wasn't lighthearted. It was intense. Her hands knotted in his hair. He gripped her hips. They kissed deeply, tongues involved, breathing heavy, for a full 10 seconds while the room hooped and hollered. I remained still. I watched the woman I'd been planning to marry lock lips with a random guy in front of 20 mutual acquaintances. When she finally separated, Ryan looked triumphant. Jessica looked thrilled. She wiped her lips, still laughing, face flushed. Then she turned to me. She caught my expression. It wasn't rage anymore. It was raw, complete revulsion. Her grin wavered briefly, but she recovered fast. She waved a hand toward me. My God, look at his expression, she declared to everyone, pointing. Relax, Mark. It was just a silly challenge. Don't ruin the fun. Ryan snickered. Yeah, man, it's only a game. Not a big thing, Jessica added, rolling her eyes. Don't turn this into your issue. Something inside me broke. Not with a bang. Not with shouting. It was the quiet snap of a thick chain finally giving way, releasing the vessel to float free. I didn't jump up and overturn furniture. I didn't swing at Ryan's smug face. I didn't yell at Jessica. I understood in that instant that any outburst, any feeling shown, would be ammunition for her to label me unstable or possessive. She craved a scene. She wanted to feel desired enough for men to clash over her. I denied her that satisfaction. I rose calmly. The room still hummed, whispers and giggles rising as people awaited fireworks. Jessica watched me, chin lifted, challenging me to explode. I met her eyes. I ignored Ryan entirely, focusing only on her. I looked at her like a passerby I'd accidentally locked eyes with on public transit. No warmth, no anger, just emptiness. Then I turned and headed for the exit. Mark, Jessica called. Her tone carried irritation. Where are you going? Don't be so theatrical. I continued walking. I opened the front door and stepped into the crisp night. The quiet outside was jarring after the chaos within. Mark, she shouted again, sharper. I heard footsteps, but I didn't pause. I reached my car, unlocked it, and slid inside. My phone vibrated as I started the engine. A message from Jessica. Jessica, 11:42 p.m. Are you really leaving? You're making me look bad. It was just a game. I didn't respond. I tossed the phone onto the seat beside me and pulled away. We shared an apartment. Technically, it was mine. I was the only name on the lease. She sent rent money whenever it crossed her mind, but her belongings filled every corner. I arrived at the building. The dashboard clock showed 11:55 p.m. I knew her patterns. She wouldn't leave the party yet. Pride wouldn't allow it. Chasing me now would make her look weak, and Jessica never chased. She'd linger, drink more, maybe flirt harder with Ryan despite me, then crash elsewhere or stumble in at dawn expecting me to be waiting. She anticipated an argument. She expected me to beg for remorse so she could withhold it. I entered the apartment. It carried the scent of her vanilla candles. It felt lifeless. I went to the bedroom and hauled out my 2 big suitcases. I packed methodically, not emotionally. Clothing, laptop, key paperwork, the watch from my grandfather, the backup drive holding all my projects. I worked like someone dismantling a temporary base. I didn't destroy her photos. I didn't damage her wardrobe. I simply extracted myself from the picture. I emptied my section of the bathroom shelf, leaving her cosmetics chaos untouched. I grabbed my own pillows. By 12:45 a.m., the car was packed. I did a final check of the place. I removed the spare key from its hook. I placed my apartment key on the kitchen counter beside the framed picture of us from Hawaii. I studied that photo. We appeared joyful. I recalled the vacation. I'd covered the cost. I'd organized everything. And she'd spent the days glued to her phone, posting updates to spark envy among friends. I saw then that I hadn't been in a real partnership. I'd been sponsoring a spectator. My phone buzzed once more. Jessica, 12:50 a.m. Ryan offered to drive me home since my boyfriend is acting childish. Don't stay up. Classic manipulation. She wanted jealousy. She wanted me to plead. No, I'm heading back. Please don't ride with him. I read it and felt only relief. I opened phone settings. Block contact. Jessica. Then Instagram. Block account. Facebook. Snapchat. LinkedIn. Block. 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 I checked into a 24-hour motel on the outskirts. It wasn't fancy, but it was peaceful. I sat on the firm mattress, gazing at the plain wall. I thought tears would come. I thought heartbreak would overwhelm me. It did, in a muted, heavy sense. But mainly, I felt like I'd escaped a collapsing structure. I cleared the fumes from my system and inhaled fresh air. The following morning, I saw 3 missed calls from an unknown number, likely one of her friends. I let them go. Then a voicemail appeared. From our shared friend, Sarah. I almost deleted it, but listened anyway. I pressed play. Mark? It's Sarah. I'm not sure what happened. But Jessica is losing it. She got home, and she said all your things are missing? She's sobbing uncontrollably. She swears she never meant to hurt you, and she has no idea where you are. Just reach out, okay? She's truly remorseful. I ended the message. She's remorseful that my belongings vanished, I thought. Not remorseful for humiliating me. Remorseful that her cushion disappeared. I didn't return the call. Instead, I phoned my landlord. Hey, Mr. Henderson. It's Mark. There's been a personal matter. I've vacated the unit. Lease ends in 2 months, correct? I'll send full payment for the remaining term today. Keep the deposit, but remove me from any renewal. Anything that happens there now is no longer my concern. Sure, Mark. The landlord sounded confused. Is Jessica remaining? That's her decision, I replied. But she'll handle the cost solo. I hung up and wired the funds. It was substantial. Money I'd saved for a ring. But purchasing my independence was the smartest use imaginable. I was suddenly without a home, newly single, rebuilding from scratch. Yet as I sat in a modest diner eating basic eggs and toast, a realization hit. I had come out ahead. I had finally quit the match. But individuals like Jessica don't recognize when it's truly finished. They see every quiet period as merely an intermission before resuming. She didn't grasp that I hadn't hit pause. I had yanked the plug and discarded the entire system. And she was on the verge of discovering how deafening true silence can be. The quiet held for roughly 3 days. That's how long it took for denial to fade and alarm to rise. In those days, I became invisible. Work, gym, motel. No social media activity. No viewing her updates. No inquiries. But my absence didn't halt the world. Since I'd blocked Jessica directly, she recruited friends to pressure me. In online circles, they're known as flying monkeys. Messengers dispatched by someone self-centered to shame the target back into place. On Wednesday, leaving work, I spotted Sarah, the voicemail friend, leaning on my car. We have to talk, she stated, arms folded. I've got nothing to discuss, Sarah. I unlocked the door. You can't simply desert her, Mark. She's falling apart. She hasn't eaten properly in days. She's terrified. I paused, looking at her across the car roof. Terrified of what? Facing the results of her choices. It was one kiss. Sarah raised her voice, drawing looks from passers-by. One foolish, alcohol-fueled kiss. And you abandoned her with the rent. You emptied the joint account. I withdrew my share of savings. I clarified evenly and covered the remaining lease rent. She has shelter paid for 60 days. Many guys would have stuck her with the full tab. If she can't sort her situation in 2 months, that's on her. But she loves you. No, she doesn't, I answered. She loves that I handled expenses and repaired her vehicle. She loves my reliability. But respect? She lost that. And Sarah, if you truly cared about her, you'd encourage maturity instead of showing up here to bother me. I drove away. That evening, Tyler, the party host, filled in more details. He was among the few friends with actual principles. We grabbed a drink, and he seemed uneasy. You made the correct call, bro, Tyler said, shaking his head. I figured you deserved the full picture on Ryan. I sipped my beer. What about him? He didn't leave with her that night, Tyler explained. After you walked out, Jessica kind of waited for him to step up. She assumed they'd head out together. Ryan laughed at her. He told her straight, I avoid drama, and you're radiating it right now. Then he took off with some other girl from marketing. A cold, grim satisfaction washed over me. So, I said, she destroyed a 3-year relationship for a guy who turned her down minutes later. Exactly, Tyler confirmed. And the whole room witnessed it. She's mortified, Mark. That's why she's unraveling. It isn't only losing you. It's losing you over absolutely nothing. She'd bet the farm on a weak hand, and the dealers swept the table. On Saturday morning, precisely 1 week post-party, the pounding began. I'd moved to a short-term Airbnb studio across town. I'd shared the address only with my parents. But Jessica excels at persistence when cornered. She'd likely visited my parents, wept until my soft-hearted mom relented with the location. I checked the peephole. It was her, but not the vibrant Jessica from the party. The confident woman in the striking dress had vanished. Standing there was someone who appeared exhausted after sleepless nights. She wore one of my old, oversized hoodies, a deliberate tug at memories, and her hair was in a careless ponytail. Her eyes were swollen and bloodshot. She knocked again, gentler. "Mark, I know you're home. Please." I considered ignoring her. I could have contacted authorities. I could have worn headphones. But I knew closure required direct words. Otherwise, she'd linger in my life for months. She needed to hear finality from me. I undid the lock and opened the door. She inhaled sharply upon seeing me. I looked refreshed. Clean clothes. Like a man progressing. "Mark?" she whispered, reaching for my arm. I shifted back slightly, avoiding contact. "What do you need, Jessica?" She recoiled at my icy tone. Tears formed instantly. I only wanted to see you. I've tried calling, messaging. You've blocked me on everything." "That's typically how endings go," I said. "We aren't ended." She wept, voice breaking. "You simply vanished. You didn't even try to save us." "There was nothing worth saving," I replied. "You decided. You picked Ryan. You picked the crowd's approval. You picked the spectacle. It was a challenge," she sobbed, tears streaming. "I'd been drinking. I wasn't clear-headed. It meant zero. He's repulsive. He's nothing to me." "I know," I said. "I know he's nothing. And I know he brushed you off right after. That's the sole reason you're here now. If he'd taken you home that night, you wouldn't be at my door. You're not here out of love for me, Jess. You're here because you discovered the other side was artificial." Her expression collapsed. She recognized the truth but couldn't voice it. "That isn't fair," she begged. "I love you. I miss what we had. I miss our routine. I'm deeply sorry, Mark. Please. I'll do whatever it takes. I promise. I'll do anything to make this right." She sank to her knees. A dramatic, frantic display. She clutched my hand before I could withdraw, pressing her forehead to it. "Tell me how to fix it," she pleaded against my skin. "I'll stop drinking. I'll drop those friends. I'll share all my passwords. Put me through whatever. Make me suffer. Just challenge me to prove my feelings." I gazed down at her. A brief pity stirred, but distant, like watching a flawed character on screen. I realized I didn't despise her. I simply no longer recognized her. The person kneeling wasn't my equal. She was an unfamiliar figure who'd taken 3 years of my life. I eased my hand free, gentle yet decisive. "You want a challenge?" I asked quietly. Hope lit her eyes as she looked up. She believed the bargaining had started. She nodded eagerly, drying her cheeks. "Yes. Anything. Tell me." I held her gaze steadily. No smile. No frown. Just the facts. "I challenge you to leave me alone," I said. "For good." The light vanished from her eyes, replaced by stunned emptiness. Her lips parted, silent. "Goodbye, Jessica," I stated. I retreated and closed the door. I secured the deadbolt. Click. A raw cry came from outside. A shattered, anguished noise. Then uncontrollable sobbing. Then fists on the door. I went to the kitchen, slipped on noise-canceling headphones, and started a podcast. I brewed coffee and watched the steam curl upward. After roughly 20 minutes, the noise ceased. 6 months have gone by since then. I heard little about Jessica afterward. I maintained my boundaries. Blocks stayed active. I never returned to the old place. But in a small community, word travels, and shared friends share even unasked. From Tyler's updates, Jessica struggled with the aftermath. Once the prepaid rent expired, she couldn't cover the apartment alone. She moved back with her parents in the suburbs, something she'd always called her ultimate horror. Evidently, the wild party image soured. At 22, reckless drinking and boundary crossing might pass as youthful error. Nearing 30, it becomes a warning sign that repels stable partners. She remains single, and per Tyler, she often shares cryptic, melancholic posts about lost love and second chances on Facebook. Ryan continues being Ryan, drifting through nightlife. They now loathe each other. As for me, I earned the promotion I'd been chasing. Free from the constant drain of a partner who dismissed my drive as dull, I focused fully on work. I used the funds originally meant for a ring as a down payment on a modest house. My own house. I've begun dating again lately. Her name is Elena. On our second date, we visited a bar. A guy approached her while I stepped away to the restroom. When I returned, She didn't laugh or flirt or try to make